This is an update about the classroom diagnostic tool. In particular, we will be talking about CDT range scores. So what does a CDT range score mean? This is an example of two content areas range scores. They're actually available for reading / literature, science, math, / algebra 1, as well as writing. So to look at the range score, look at the column in the gold orangish color. It names the course of study. And you can see that this is aligned to the CDT test options. There's a black line dissecting the chart in half. So above that would be the elementary CDTs. For example, reading grade 3 through 5, and then below the black line, you would see the secondary CDTs, where it's listed as reading literature grade 6 through high school, and so forth. In the gray column is listed the grade level. So here we see second grade, third grade, fourth grade, and then again that black line at fifth grade. And what is above the line is elementary, what is below the line is secondary. You move over to the actual scores. These scores can be reported for a total score as well as a score in each of the diagnostic categories per content area test. So the scores could fall into a red range, a green range, or a blue range. So in terms of the CDT range scores, where is the end of course expectation? So take a look at the scale. Is the end of course expectation in the red, the green, or the blue? The answer to that is the end of course expectation is where green meets blue. So we are looking right there at, if we look at second grade math as the example, where 891 is at the top of the green and 892 is at the bottom of the blue. The end of course expectation is 891 to 892. Where would approaching grade level fall on the CDT range scores? Pausing to give you a chance to think about that. If where green meets blue is the end of course expectation, approaching grade level would include all of the red and into the green. What does a score of 1185 mean? So now I'm going to allow my eyes to move over to the chart and find 1185. It pops out real quickly at sixth grade at the top of the green for math. So there's 1185, but let me find it on another grade level. 1185 would be in the middle of seventh grade. It would also fall in the middle of eighth grade. It would also fall in the middle of algebra 1. And what I've actually done is start to create a diagonal line there. And so you can see 1185 may be on all of those scales. It's even on the fifth grade scale. It's just a matter of what does that position mean on the chart. It could mean that for a fifth grader at 1185, it means they're exceeding end of course expectation. And 1185 for a sixth grader in math would mean that they're meeting end of course expectation, whereas 1185 for a seventh grader, an eighth grader, or even in algebra 1, they are on track. They're in the middle of the green. What does that middle of the green mean? Well, I shared that phrase on track. The middle of the green is a sweet spot. It's where students begin to answer grade level questions correctly. That does not necessarily mean that all of the questions that they're answering at the grade level are answered correctly by the student, but they are clearly moving into that grade level content. So this middle of the green, this sweet spot, there is a calculation for it. You take the maximum and the minimum and you divide by 2, and you add that number to the bottom end, the minimum of the green, to find it. Now, we can calculate that out by hand, but DRC has given us this nice little chart to make sure we're all talking about the same number as the middle of the green. So if you're a second grade student, the middle of the green is 810 for math. And third grade student, the middle of the green would be 903. and so forth. And you can see how that middle of the green is a progressively larger number as you move through the higher level courses, higher grade level courses. So why is this important? Right now, there's a lot of talk about locally selected assessments. And if you have a seventh grader who has completed the CDT and they have a score of 1163 or the middle of the green, what does that mean? It means they're on track. The CDT can be used as a locally selected assessment. The same applies for reading. We have scores here for the middle of the green for reading. So if we were looking at a third grader and what score do they need to be in the middle of the green, it would be 848. When a school entity is going through the process of selecting a local assessment for grade 3 reading or grade 7 mathematics, they need to go through the process of the step 1 initial determination of eligibility checklist. And I've started marking on here how the CDT aligns with that. The vendor definitely provides clear test administration guidelines. The second item, teachers do not score the CDT, so that's not applicable. Are there multiple forms and or versions provided? Absolutely. That's the computer adaptive test. Does the assessment have a cut score performance level that represents expected or on track performance within the grade level? Yes, they did. Yes, the CDT does. It's the middle of the green. So this chart shows how the CDT does align and test what is expected to test. The top of the chart is actually from the CDT technical report. And if a student is in grade 3, this happens to be just the math example, you can see what's highlighted in green. The majority of the students are answering questions that fall into the grade level that they're in, plus one grade level above and below. And that makes sense. So say it's a third grader at the beginning of the year, they don't know third grade content. They are stronger with second grade content and they will be answering those questions correctly. As they progress through the year, they're going to move into more of that third grade content and even move up into the fourth grade content until the end of the course. So you can see that the CDT does assess what it's intended to assess. On the bottom is an example of an individual student map in the CDT. It's one of the reports. And the gray band there is the grade level of the student. And again, you can see the student is answering questions in the grade level that they're in, as well as one grade level above and below. So the test is assessing what it intends to. Also, just to share a little bit further about how there are multiple forms of the test, that is because of the computer adaptive test engine. And so students start with a grade level question, and then based on how they answer, they are giving, the engine decides what question to give them next. And not all students answer the same question. This is what allows for the multiple forms of the tests. As you continue to go through that, another question is, does the assessment provide for accommodations? And absolutely, I've listed the accommodations that are on the right-hand side of the screen. So there's a contrasting text chooser, there's a contrast chooser, there's audio versions of the CDT for math and science, there's audio for the visually impaired for math, science, and literacy. There are accommodations that can be added that align with students' individual education plan. So one remaining question is, well, how do I get all of the student data into one place? Well, see, the DRC has started to provide district and school data files. So this is an example of one, and I've just taken away the student names and identifying information. And so what remains is the test that they took, the grade that they took the test, the district codes, which assessment window they may have taken. In this case, it was the first assessment or the most recent assessment. And then here's the total score. And this is the score where you could determine if students are on track, are at the middle of the green or beyond. And all that's needed is another column here with a conditional statement that adds that yes or no is as to whether or not that score is on track or exceeding that expectation or on track. As always, if you have additional questions, you can feel free to contact myself or my co-leads for the classroom diagnostic tool, Dan Richards and Brian Stanford. This is Carrie Soliday, and I hope that this short screencast helps you to understand CDT range scores and even how the CDT applies to locally selected assessments for determining if students are on track.